Hey guys, and welcome to the next tutorial. So in this tutorial we're going to be doing this cool light stroke effect where the text sort of draws itself in, and then we're going to be using lens flares to kind of be the pen that draws it in. So we're going to have an effect like this at the end. Alright, and then I've just put it over the flyby footage, but you can put it over anything really that you want. So let's get started. Alright guys, so you can go ahead and create your new composition. I'm going to have mine at 1080p, duration of 20 seconds. And then just go ahead and create your text layer. I'm going to have mine say neon, and then just scale it up nice and big. Alright, so now we're going to create our text path, so our outline. So we're just going to right click and say create masks from text. Alright, so you should see this. You can turn off the toggle mask and shape path visibility. Alright, and then you're going to go to the effects and say generate, and we're going to generate a stroke. Alright, so we're going to say paint style on transparent, and then here where it says path, we want to do all the mask paths, not just one of the characters. And then the strobe sequentially, we're going to tick that off. Alright, and then for the start, now it starts off at 0%, which is actually its finish. Alright, so 100% is its beginning. So we're going to leave it at 0%, and we're just going to do our brush size a bit thicker. Alright, so about 3. Let's just put it to 3. Alright, and then we can take the start and put it to 100. Go to the beginning of our comp. Alright, and then just keyframe the start. Go to however long you want it to last for, so let's go for around 5 seconds, and then just put this to 0%. Alright, so you should, if you go through your timeline now, you should see your text busy writing itself in there. Okay. Alright guys, so now we're going to create a new solid, and we'll call this flare 1, and these are going to be our nice lights that write in our text. Okay, so we're going to use lens flares for that. So go ahead and go to effect and generate a lens flare. Alright, and there's going to be multiple of these on the screen, so set this to 50% for the brightness, and then select one of the lens types that you like. So either this one's quite nice, I'm going to go for the 35mm prime, and then just set the blending mode to screen. Okay, so now we want to animate our lens flare so it goes along the line of our paths for our text. Okay, so we're going to create a new null object, and then we're just going to rename this to, rename it to null n, and then just go ahead and duplicate these now. So if you, however many letters you have, just duplicate them that many times, and then just rename it. So this is going to be NE, NEO, and then this one will be N2. Alright, so you'll have your, however many letters you have, you should have the same amount of null objects. Okay, so what we're actually going to do is we're going to animate our null object along the outlines, and then attach the flare to each null. Okay, so you can select your null outlines layer and press the M key, and then select the path, so the first letter that you have, select the path and Control C, select your null object for your first letter, press P for position. Make sure you're at the beginning of your comp here, so don't be here when you paste it, be right at the beginning, and control V. Alright, so let me just put this down and refresh. Okay, so now you'll see it's animating along with our path. Okay, so first of all, it's animating in the wrong direction and it's way too fast. It's ending way too quickly, as you can see there. So all you have to do is take the position and move it to the 5-second mark. Alright, because that's how long we told it to take to end its path. Alright, and then just select the positions. You can select it just by clicking on positions. Right click, keyframe assistant, time, reverse keyframes. Alright, and that will make it go in the correct direction. That's only happening because for our outline here, our start, okay, is actually at 0 and our finish is at 100. Alright, so if you worked with the end, you won't have to you won't have to reverse the time frame, but if you did the start like I told you, then you will have to. So now we're going to attach our flare's position center to our null. Right, so select your flare 1, hold down Alt and click on the stopwatch there where it says flare center, and then select your N, press P, and you're going to just pick whip the express center to the position. Alright, so now you can see we've got a nice lens flare going along our path there. Alright, awesome. So now, because we're going to have multiple lens flares, if we had to duplicate our lens flares and like move them around, you can see what we're going to end up with. Okay, we don't want this extra stuff here, so we're going to just mask out the lens flare so it's just showing what's over the letter. So have your flare layer selected and go to your pen tool here and just click around your first letter. Okay, so now that's hiding everything around. It's only showing what we're telling it to show in here, and you can just drop down the mask of that and then just feather it up a little bit. Alright, okay, so now we're going to do this for each letter, unfortunately, but that is the only way to do it. So we're going to control D our flare. I'm going to move it to our next underneath our next letter here, and click on our outlines layer. Before we do that, we can actually change the color of our lens flares. So we can come to our lens flare here, or just hide the one that we duplicated, and then you can change the color of them if you'd like with the curves. Alright, so if we want it more red, then that's too red. And then like for the next one, maybe we want it to be green. Alright, so then you can do that. Let me just reset. So if you want this to be green, you can make it green. Alright, so you can change the colors, so each one can be a different color, which is quite nice. So anyway, let me go back to our next path, which is our E. Select and mask path, Control C, go to your null E, okay, drop down or press P to get the position, and Control V. And now I'm going to drag this to the 5-second mark, select all of them, keyframe assistant time reverse keyframes. Alright, and then select the flare, alt click on flare center. Okay. Sorry, it didn't pick it up for some reason. Okay, and then you're just going to pick whip it to the position of your next letter. Alright, so now, as you can see, we need to move our mask, but here you can see what the mask is doing. So as it's exiting the mask there, we're no longer seeing it. Alright, so you can just go ahead to your next flare here and go to the masks, select your mask, and then just move it over your next letter. Alright, so now we have 2 down. We can add another curves to this one and make it a blue, have like a blue tone to it. Alright, so we just have to do that 2 more times now. So going to duplicate our flare, move it under our O there, select our outline, go to our O. Okay, so now our O actually has 2 paths because it has the outer and the inner. So we're just going to do the outer one. So we'll select the first one here, Control C our mask path. Let's move this up a little bit. Alright, and then we'll come to our null O and then drop down the position, go to the beginning, Control V, select your position, Control V, and then just drag the end keyframe to 5 seconds. Okay, and then going to right click, keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes. Alright, so you can't see it that well. Let me just click away. So there is going with it. Awesome. And then we'll come to our flare and alt on our flare center. Okay, alt flare center, and then pick up the position of our O. Alright, and then we're going to just move the mask once again over to our O. Alright, and then our last letter, go to the outlines and select your last letter or however many letters you have. Control C on the mask path, Control C. Okay, and then come to your N2, drop down the position with P and Control paste it, and then just move it to, make sure you click directly on the keyframe when you move it. Alright, and then just going to keyframe assist, time reverse keyframes. Okay, and then the last thing, just going to duplicate the flare, move it up 1, and this one, let's try green. Let's make this one green. Okay, so we're going to we're going to alt on the flare center. Okay, and then you're going to pick whip it to the position of your last null object. Okay, so oh yes, and then we just have to move the mask over. Alright, so let me click away here. So here's what we have. It looks really nice. So one thing we can do is just collapse all of this now. Select all of your flares Okay, and drop them down, and at the transform we're going to just take the opacity from 0, keyframe, go in as it starts and make it 100%. Go to the end here, keyframe, and make it 0%. Okay, so as it finishes writing in, it fades out. Alright guys, so now we can add a background video if we would like. So I want to drag in the flyby footage. Okay, and just drag it to the bottom here, and I want it to start around here. Alright, so we're just going to darken this up a bit, so we'll come and add some curve adjustments. So first go to a new adjustment layer, and actually let's add our ramp. Let's add our ramp to our adjustment layer, and then we'll pick the two colors. So we'll have it black at the top and a nice blue at the bottom, and you can set the blending mode to color. Alright, and then you can just decrease the opacity of this a bit, so maybe 50%. Alright, and let's see what we have. Alright, so I'm going to put my adjustment layer down here so our neons aren't getting affected by it. But what we can do is we can just select everything. Okay, select everything except for the adjustment layer and your footage, so everything that has to do with your text, and then you can just pre-compose it. Alright, so now we can do what we want with it in here. So first of all, just set the blending mode to add. Alright, so none that black weird thing that I was doing, that's gone now. So now this is what we have. We want our comp to end right here, or we can actually make it go on a little bit longer and have our, because now we can animate our text even though it's been animated because we've pre-comped it. So from like the 5-second mark, or even from the beginning, we can take the scale and we can scale it up for the entire duration. So maybe 9 seconds, we can scale it up. So now while it's busy writing itself in, it's also scaling up. Alright guys, so one more thing we can do is we can come to our pre-comp here, right, and then we can add a glow effect. So just drag that under the stroke, right, and then you can just play with the grow threshold and the radius, and then put the original colors to A and B colors, and then you can choose your two colors here. So I'm going to go for a blue. Right, and then just increase the intensity till the blue starts really showing. Okay, and if we come back to our comp, you'll see that instead of it being white, now it's got a blue glow to it. Right, we'll set this to full quality. Alright, so we can just render it out now. Alright guys, so I've rendered it out. Just one thing you need to change: the blending mode that we chose for the pre-comp, instead of it being add, put it to screen. Alright, so you can either put it to screen, or a better one might be lighten. So the lens flare, the extra lens flares aren't showing up. Alright, so I'm going to render it out one last time. Okay, cool guys, so here is the final product, and it looks pretty nice. So hope you guys enjoyed, and see you in the next lesson.